Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the ABCs of Home Improvement. My name is Mike Ash. I'm one of the co-hosts today. We have Laborio Durario, and we have Earl with us. Earl we brought back because I understand...
We want to thank all the folks out there. Last week when we had the Earl retirement party, hearing that Earl was going to the West Coast to do his mountain climbing and geology studies, we received 136 emails from you folks out there requesting a return show for Earl, to have one more show to come in and talk about actually his specialty, which is, he wants to talk about building envelope, R values, and what would you call that, Earl? Efficiency of the building envelope. Come on, say hello to your fans out there. The 136
first of all, I'm deeply touched, and the reason why I'm really here today is because the moving van that I do have a printed confirmation did not show up.
Oh my gosh, that's what happens when you use those California guys. You say they come when they want.
You need to practice what you preach. You take the low bidder, and you may be sitting on the sidewalk with all your boxes.
See, Earl, you didn't take your own advice. And what was that quote? That you're back, and we're gonna by the end of the day we're gonna have a couple of quotes back in there.
For goodness'
those
sakes.
were the best. That's
simple economic sense.
I'd like to say out of the 136 emails that we did receive, 135 of them were women, Earl.
Nice.
And one was from Mike. He actually sent one in.
I felt bad for you, Earl.
Mike sent one in, and he requested that you come back on the show.
Well, on for bigger and better things, and if not for a certain moving company I will not mention, I would not be here today. But the envelope of the building, we've started with the engineering, the surveying. We've started with the excavating, digging the hole, and the footings, and the basement walls. And we framed a house, we've had the plumbing, we've had the electrician done, we've had all these things done. One thing we haven't touched on yet is the insulation.
Exactly.
Which is a very important part of the structure and the home. And we're going to talk about that today in detail.
That's important because that affects every monthly bill.
Exactly. People just take it for granted because right away the insulation is covered up with sheetrock. You only see the insulation for a few days.
And all you see is what the builder gives you.
And it's beautiful, and why shouldn't we see it longer, Earl? I think we should at least see it for a week or two.
I don't know how to respond to that one. You got me. No, we don't. You don't want to see it. You don't want to touch it. You don't want to be near it. That's
but you
why
want to make sure you have enough of it.
Yes. You want to make sure it's done properly.
You don't want to roll around in that stuff. It gets pretty itchy.
The job of the builder or your remodeler, your general contractor, it's their job to make sure it's done correctly, that there's enough of it, that it's done properly. It's a very important part of your home, and we'll touch on retrofitting. Again, we broadcast out to the Warwick, the Chester, Slate Hill, Monroe, Greenville, this area here, Orange County.
It's a zone. There's a zone up here. They have a zone for it to tell you about the R values, right?
Sure.
And this is a tough climate one, yes.
But the thing is that, you got to have a good contractor to make sure it gets done properly, because we talked with a Scotchy last week, and we scotched on this and we scotched on that about replacing the heat loss with the radiant heat floor and the smart systems, the smart burners, the smart boilers that they have nowadays.
They have that efficiency level.
And what we didn't touch on, and we'll touch on today, is
maintaining
it, keeping it as long as we can.
Without it regenerating itself all the time.
Without having to kick it back on again.
Furnace kicking on.
Right. The longer you can keep the heat in your home, the less you have to replace.
Cha-ching.
Yes, the cash machine and the it keeps ringing up, and like you said, Mike, cha-ching. So in New York State here, or the International Building Code in this area, we're talking the code standards are right now, they've just been increased about a year and a half ago. They went from R19 in the walls to R21, and from R30 in the ceilings to R38. And that the thickness of the fiberglass is from 6 to 6.5 inches of a high density material. That's the R19 to R21 in the walls. And in the ceilings, R30 is 9.5 inches of fiberglass, and R38 is 12.5 inches of fiberglass. So they've beefed it up. Again,
how you doing there, Earl? It's always good to
slow. They've beefed it up to slow
to
slow this the loss of heat.
Dissipation of loss.
The loss of heat, and that's what we need to hit
Well,
on
let's
today.
let's get the folks out there. Get off your cans. Give us a call 651-1110 and learn about this way to save yourself some energy dollars. Because Earl is here to tell you there is a few tricks that even anybody in an existing home without doing too much work with just a phone call over here to Earl at American Design and Build. You can, I'm going to jump the gun a little bit, but I'm going to just talk about that blanket in the attic, Earl, real quickly for those folks that, are looking for a quick fix, something really, inexpensive, and a good way, before the winter comes up to save on your energy bills, Earl.
Well, that's what they need to do right now. What you need to do right now is call your insulating contractor or your general contractor, your remodeler if someone's working in your home presently. We like to recommend Delfino Insulation.
Oh,
over
we
in
do,
Middletown.
yes, okay, we do.
Good people.
They're at 845 area code 692-3535. Call Delfino Insulation, and what they'll do is they'll send out one of their salespeople to meet with you and examine your problem. They'll examine what you need to do. For instance, you said heat loss in the ceilings in the attic area. 80% of our heat loss is through the roof. Heat rises.
Exactly.
So that's,
Same in the body if you don't have a hat on.
That's why I got a hat on.
That's it. So
Yeah.
the same, we can make some analogies there, right,
yeah,
Mike?
Same thing.
Oh,
So
easy to understand. too.
80% is through the roof. And the way you can see this and identify it is in your own neighborhood. Drive down the road after a snowfall. If we just got 6 inches of snow, pick out the first house that the snow has melted on the roof. And that is the house that is losing the most heat up through the second floor ceiling, up through the
That's
roof. And the rest of the houses, all the roofs are white, and there's one where you can see the shingles. The heat going through the second floor ceiling
Melting it right off.
is melting the snow right off the
And
roof.
there's icicles building up all along the edge.
And you
where
have
it
ice
melts.
damming, and that's another problem we'll talk about
And,
at another time.
and if it was for your body, you'd have icicles from your ears coming off if you didn't have a hat on. It would be melting off your head
And your nose.
and nose. And
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Earl, that you have to be concerned with besides the insulation in the roof? Like a ridge vent or they call this condensation?
Oh, ventilation, Mike.
Yeah, that's
part
important.
of the insulation package.
Absolutely. The homes nowadays are designed to breathe, and that's all a big part of it, that they have to draw air in through the soffit area. Now we have vented soffits, okay,
Nice,
where
nice.
the air is drawn in.
How do you handle that with the insulation? Do you cover them? Do you back it up a little bit? Do you put something on the edges of the
The
eave
baffles.
There's a baffle. There's an
Baffles.
air channel. These
For those
styrofoam
folks,
baffles.
What do they look like for the folks that open their refrigerators and look in there? What can they equate it to?
Your egg cartons.
Your egg cartons.
styrofoam egg cartons. As if we
Giving
stapled that
pictures
upside
to you
down.
folks out there.
Up against the sheathing, up against your roof sheathing, to allow air to pass between the soffit area and the insulation that is protecting your second floor, or in a ranch style, your ceiling, your attic
That's right.
ceiling. So
Right.
that's what this is about today, and we're
All
going
right.
to get into it a little bit more.
Yeah, we're going to go out on a break here for a minute, and we want you folks to give us a call at 651-1110. Let us know about your insulation needs, and if you have any questions about how to make your building more efficient, now's
Call
the time
today.
to call Earl.
Earl's in. We're back, everybody. We're in the ABCs of Home Improvement. We've got a specialist in today. Earl's with us today discussing the insulation factor of homes. And we're going to have our new question for the day. Earl, go
Earl,
ahead.
hold on, Earl. Before you go, for the question of the day, okay, you guys have about 45 minutes left in the show. We are giving away today the AT&T Digital Personal Communication Service. Okay, it is a Nokia 8860 slide phone, silver slide phone, fully compatible with the AT&T systems. Okay, so
It's
if
a
you're the
good-looking
first
set,
caller
too.
with the
It's
answer,
polished chrome also.
polished chrome with the answer today, that's here at the studio for you to pick up. Okay, Earl, kick it off. What's the question of the day?
All right. Well, does that come with a battery and a charger over there?
Battery, charger, earphone piece to
Leather
make sure
case
your hands free,
also.
leather
It's
case, and instruction booklet.
Okay, throughout the show, we'll be mentioning R values, R19, R30, R13, R38. What does R value stand for? That's the question of the day. So, someone
that's
out
a
there,
good one. That's a
you
nice
know,
one, Earl.
I know there's a lot of housewives listening.
They
Right
got
now, they're cleaning the
at least
kitchen.
135 of them.
Sure. And, oh,
Based on the email count, we know there are at least 135 of them.
all right, well, pick up the phone, put down your duster,
Right,
pick up the phone, and
give
call
Earl
in,
a call.
And with the answer, get on the computer, get on the internet, look up the answer, and call us in because we got a lovely phone here.
It's a beautiful phone for your
Okay.
works. Okay.
What we were talking about before we took our break, we were talking about what everyone should do right now. What everyone should do right now is call Delfino Insulation, one of our show sponsors, and we do enjoy working with them, at 692-3535. Have one of their salespeople come out. They will talk about
Survey.
measuring your attic area to blow either 12 6-inches of either cellulose or fiberglass insulation
Nice.
over your existing insulation that you already have. Because if your home is 30, 40, 50 years old, you may only have 3 inches of fiberglass up there. You may only have 6 inches of fiberglass up there. And you're losing money. Every winter that we go through, that year after year after year, you're just burning money. Might as well put it in the
How
ashtray.
about some of our folks that have older homes where the ceiling systems might be like 2x6s or 2x8s, and the weight of the cellulose? Is there any consideration? Do they have to be concerned, or just that blanket is fine?
No, that's fine. You don't have to worry about that because the homes that are that old, 50 years old, and they have 2x6 joists, they might even have the plaster and the lath.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly, with the weight. Yeah.
And just, I mean, there's no problem with the weight.
Okay,
The weight,
good.
the additional weight load from either blowing 6 or 12 inches
Of
of
cellulose.
cellulose or fiberglass is not a problem. It'll handle that either. It's like putting an extra blanket on your bed in the winter. A lot of times, this time of year, your wife will all of a sudden, you'll notice you go to bed at night, there's an extra blanket folded up at the foot of your bed.
You have a nice wife, Earl.
Yeah.
Oh, are you married, Earl, by the way?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And I'm the luckiest man in this world.
On the face of the planet, like Teddy Smith. The luckiest man on the face of the earth.
Yes. Well,
That goes out to Al, Big Al.
Yes,
That's
indeed.
Up there.
But,
Rock and roll heaven.
But that's what you want to do. This time of year, you want to put an extra blanket on your house,
Nice.
in your ceiling, your second floor ceiling, over what you already have.
Well, let's back up though. What is now the cellulose? Okay, so it's better than if you just put bad insulation down. You still have some openings and air spaces. So this cellulose sort of does it sort of seal up the entire area up in the attic over the joists and over the old insulation,
And the light fixtures and everything
right?
else
And
that's
any
involved.
cracks or any?
Yes, you can lay bats. You probably already have bats up in your attic.
Or in your belfry.
Absolutely. You probably already have the bats up in your attic, and they probably have craft paper on one side, the side facing down against the sheetrock,
Nice.
and that's your vapor barrier. What you don't want to do
right.
is go to Home Depot and buy
Bats.
more craft paper bats and put them up on top of what you already have, because now you have a double vapor barrier,
That's
and you'll be
crazy.
trapping moisture in between the
That's
two
really
layers.
That's something else.
Which
So
is
the bats are basically the roll of
yeah,
insulation.
Mike,
That's
I
correct.
want to hear what you think about bats, Mike.
I don't want to get into bats. Every time I had a problem with bats, I remember the one night where we had a lot of them in the house. Why? Because the genius next door, when I was living in a townhouse, closed the vent up when we went away for
That
the
was
weekend.
crazy.
right.
And I just had experiments going on all day long.
Did you have
next
any of
day.
those smoking bats?
No, they were all pretty quiet. I waited for commercials to come out for those.
It's incredible.
So
It
bats
is-
basically are the rolls of insulation.
Well, rolls are rolls.
Or-
Bats
or
are 8 foot
lengths,
lengths
right.
or
Oh, I
4 foot
see.
lengths.
Okay.
Pre-cut. They're pre-cut lengths.
fiberglass insulation.
And they fit right between the...
Yes, they do. And you can just add another layer. And
Now, do you add it on top, or do you go transverse? How would that be done?
the best way to do it is to go crossways. In other words, if your beams run this way, go across them the other way.
So that's
Because
it.
you're going opposite the seams. You're sealing it up, but you're still going to have penetrations, air infiltration
Between
areas.
the bats.
So the best way that we recommend is that we either blow cellulose or blow fiberglass where there'll be no seams, and it's going to seal up. It's going to be putting down a beautiful comforter,
Comforter, nice.
6, 9, or 12-inch blanket over your home to help keep that heat in.
Well, Earl, let me just look through my emails here. Here it is. There's somebody here now that has a house, and they want to know they have like a polystyrene that was sprayed in between their joists, and it sort of created a little air pocket there when they opened it up. Now, that was an old way to do things. Are they still doing that type of insulation? And what is the procedure for that? Let's figure out the procedures for that.
Well, they still do it, and we're not big fans of it. I'm not.
Excellent.
I'd rather stay with John's Mansville There's a big company right there.
Nice.
Just came out with a form of insulation called Spider. They're the first company to actually blow fiberglass insulation into your sidewalls, into your 2x6 exterior walls.
Nice.
And then they use a scraping machine to scrape it flat so that there's no air voids and there's no formaldehyde. They've figured out a way.
Yes.
In the past, the formaldehyde was the bonding agent.
That's what they use to activate. Yep.
To bond the fiberglass in the bat form, also in this sprayed form. Well, what they did was they took out the fiberglass, the formaldehyde, which none of us want. You're going to get plenty of that soon enough.
Later on.
Yeah. So they took out the formaldehyde. They found another bonding agent that they could use. They figured out this thing. They call it Spider, and they spray it in the walls now. And that's the way we want to go. We don't want to talk about the foam and these other
Earl,
polystyrene.
we have a call here on line one. Let's see what the callers have to say. Go ahead, caller. You're here on 1110.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey, Steve.
How's that roaming reporter
What's going
doing?
on there, Uncle Steve?
Very good, very good.
Hey, listen, we're coming up on Turkey Day soon. I hope you're going to take a day off and enjoy.
Yeah, we would like to, but, the customer comes first.
I like that. I like that, Steve. Where are you
You
working
always
today?
Say yes, Steve.
We're down here in Westchester doing some replacement windows.
Oh, replacement windows. Now, our topic today, Steve, is energy efficiency of the building envelope. So maybe we can keep you on for a moment here and give us a little insight into what's available for the folks out there when you're replacing your windows, for all the way from the regular builder's grade, Anderson perhaps, to a high Posey or an E-glass Marvin window.
Okay?
What do you recommend when you're out there, or is it based on a budgetary?
Well, a lot of times it's based on budgetary with the customer, but I always recommend a high-efficiency window with an Energy Star rating.
Excellent. Very smart. Very good, Steve. That's excellent. And we can't talk about the Giants today because they're on tonight. So we'll see how they do.
Well, I don't want to talk about the Jets.
We won't talk about the Jets.
Embarrassing.
That's right. So excellent, Steve. Why don't you throw your name and company name and phone number out there again for all of these folks out in our listening populace?
Okay, that's Uncle Steve at the Renovation Consultant, 845-831-7609.
Excellent, Steve. Excellent, man. So it's always nice to hear from you. What type of windows are you actually putting in today?
These are a vinyl replacement and an Energy Star.
Energy Star. Nice. Now, are they custom-made units or are they stock units?
Yes.
Custom-made. So for our folks out there thinking about doing a window replacement job, there's two ways to go. If you have standard-sized windows, obviously you try and get the stock units. But if not, if it's a custom application, Uncle Steve, why don't you tell us approximately, like on a custom unit, how long it takes just to get the order for these units in?
Orders usually run about 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
And installation, depending on how many windows, are usually done in a day or two.
Nice. Excellent. So the time is really to make the windows.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So if you folks are thinking about doing any sort of exchange of windows and you have some custom sizes, remember, there's always, a month or a month and a half's time to manufacture the units that need to go in. You have to put that into your project schedule, all right? Welcome back, folks, to the ABCs of Home Improvement with Mike Ash, Kitchen Cabinets, and Earl Slick, Energy Consultant, here for an encore performance called in by 135 emails from housewives around the area listening in, and one from Mike. So, Earl, let's get back to that insulation story we were talking about. The three little insulations. There was the small insulation, the middle insulation, and the big insulation. So you have your 6, your 9, and your 12, so to speak. Go ahead, Earl.
Yeah, well, that's the different thicknesses that we prefer to install. The bottom line is this: the more you put in,
The better it is.
the better it is.
And the more you'll save in money.
So if you're if you're having a home built for you, if you're having a home built for you now,
The homes today come with more insulation.
upgrade your insulation. You can do it now while the home is framed. Smitty, you're killing me. Now's the time.
This is the season, Earl. This is the season when the winter's coming.
To be jolly and put a smile on your face.
Thank you, Rich. Thanks, Rich. I appreciate that one. I fell off my chair there for a minute. Sorry, folks. I'm back.
Oh, he's
Just
rich.
lost it there for a minute.
Yes, he is. Oh, you killed me.
That
We
was
have one of the
great.
best
Okay.
technicians in the industry.
He is. If it wasn't for Rich, we wouldn't be coming to you live here and on the air. Rich is doing a great job in the booth for us for the last 10 weeks, and it's always a pleasure to have him back there. Little sign he put up there got me going.
But if you're putting an addition on your home, if you're having a new home built now, sit down with your builder and talk about upgrading the insulation. It's something that most people don't address during the
Exactly.
construction of their home. The builder will go over with them, okay, we're going to put R21 in the walls, we're going to put R38 in the ceiling, or R19 in the walls, or R19 in the ceiling, and R30 in the ceiling, whatever. And people say, okay, fine, let's go. What's next? Then we're going to sheetrock your home. Okay, what kind of sheetrock are you going to use? Well, we're going to use 5/8, blah, blah, blah.
It's roughed over too fast. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
it's something that's not discussed in detail.
You know, on the kitchen end, every time we open up a job and we start one, and it's a full remodeling job, we always open up the outside wall because there's plumbing involved, electrical involved, and there's always very little insulation in those walls. Every time they're adding another window or they're opening up the porthole area, so-called, for the windows, it becomes another question. How much insulation is really in the wall? And every job, there's more insulation required. Every job.
Right, and one of the problems is, again, during this construction, naturally, during construction, every phase is inspected. Your framing is inspected, and then they allow you to go ahead and start your rough plumbing, your rough electric. And nowadays, we have to add in fire caulking.
Yeah, all the smoke-tight
Okay.
joints.
Okay, every vertical penetration is now caulked with a fireproof latex caulk.
Yeah.
Okay, and
UL
that's something
approved.
that's something that's been added now. So before you can insulate, you have to have your framing, your rough plumbing, your rough electric inspections, and you have to have your fire caulking inspection in most towns in New York State now. Then you can go ahead and insulate, and before you sheetrock, your insulation has to be inspected. So
That's right. That's right.
okay, so you open up a kitchen. You go in and you rip out, you tear out a kitchen, and you tear
Down
out
to
these
the studs.
and you see, oh, there's missing insulation around the window, because you know why? It either wasn't done properly back when,
There are no inspections.
or
No, that back then it wasn't a big issue. Some of the energy concerns
well,
we
the
have now.
cost factor wasn't there either.
Well, the insulation is dirt, so putting it in there is not the issue. It just didn't matter. You know, they didn't spend.
Energy
If it
costs
wasn't
weren't as
16
high.
inches wide, they weren't slicing it and packing it. They worked with the 16-inch cavities only, and you find every odd bay that's 6 inches or 8 inches or next to a window where they have a jack stud. They just didn't they didn't bother packing. They didn't want to put the effort in and slice all that stuff and waste the material for a little bit of stuff there. So they went right over it.
right, and around the windows, most
Yeah.
older homes, they don't pack around the windows, which we do now.
Pack every crack.
Oh,
That's the best.
that's whew.
Man, I remember there was a company out there I used to work with years ago. I forget what their name is, boy. They had some card though, huh? That was a nice
That
one.
was a good one.
They were chilling, man.
We don't want to go there.
No,
this is a family-rated radio show.
That's right.
But Mike brings up the point that so you open up the wall and you see there's voids, this and that. That is why it's got to be done. It's got to be addressed, and it's got to be done correctly by a reputable company.
Professional company.
Okay, guys that come out and do this every day. If your contractor has his guys doing the installation, they don't do it every day, you're not going to get a very good job done.
Right, they don't know how to do it.
You
Just
won't
like
get a completely
like-
sealed
yeah,
deal.
you
It's
can't
like
get
every-
the electrician to come and do your tile job. I mean, it's not going to
Exactly.
They'll laugh at you.
Exactly. You want it done by a professional, so it's done correctly. Guys that do it every day.
There's another area also, while you're thinking of another spot. In the kitchen, besides the window wall, that's such a problem. Once you get below the countertop and we start putting plumbing into the walls, there's a lot of frozen spots I always hear about prior to us coming on board.
Mike.
Where you got
This-
the water lines in the walls
Yeah,
or the drain lines in the walls and that type of stuff. And the insulation is nil.
Right. When you get a real bad
You open
winter.
that closet up and all of a sudden you feel that 20-degree difference almost.
Yes, we get a real bad winter rolls around, where in January or February you get 2 weeks where the temperature doesn't rise above 10 degrees. You get
Oh, that's bad news.
you get a bad winter.
Man.
You got so many people calling up with frozen pipes, and the first thing they do is they blame the insulator, which, I got to be honest with you, most of the time
It is the
it
insulator.
is the insulator, because they did not, during the installation, when you have copper pipes in an exterior wall. Number one, the plumbers
Should wrap it.
They just disregard the
Right.
fact that they're the plumbers and it's their pipes.
That's right. They should wrap it first.
It should be wrapped with pipe insulation by
Yep.
the plumbers, number one. Then, number two, and again, it's really the builder's responsibility. He's the one building the home.
Checking it.
Until closing day, it's his home.
True.
Okay? And they really need to think like that. And they need to check that the insulators come in and get as much fiberglass behind the copper pipe. There's one rule in insulation.
Never too much.
Always protect the copper.
That's it.
Always protect the copper.
That stays cold a long time.
Because you got to get as much fiberglass, even if there's only 2 inches of space in a 2x6 cavity. If that pipe,
Nice.
you've got to peel that bat in half, get as much of that fiberglass behind that copper pipe as possible, and then wrap it and put the other half of that bat in front of it, staple it good, make sure it's sealed from drafts, and then you should be okay.
That is. You got to just be careful. Too many bats, and then that copper starts chasing you.
Sure.
If you take the required recommended amount of insulation needed, you'll never have these problems.
That's correct. And what determines the required? It's gotten so confusing nowadays. We've gone to this international building code, and our friendly neighborhood architect here will jump in and help me out with this one. I have builders. The bottom line is this: is when you get your blueprints and they are stamped and approved, and it says, okay, R30 in the ceiling, R19 in the walls. That's the minimum requirement.
That's right.
You cannot go under that. You can exceed that, but you cannot go under that.
At Arca Future, we always exceed. We
Yes.
go for the 20 to 30% over because the cost is minimal and your savings are great.
Right. Now I have a builder I work with in the from Newburgh up to the Highlands off of
Wow.
Route 9W. He builds,
Nice.
and he's insulating homes with R19 in the ceilings and R19 in the walls. And I say to him, how do you do this? How do you sleep at night? He says, well, I meet New York State envelope code, and I
That's
want
right.
to talk about that a little bit.
That's right.
The standard right now is R38 in the ceilings and R21 in the outside walls.
Now, do we know why that is?
But it doesn't matter. And the reason is this. In the code book, that's what it says. But each and every inspector can read that chapter and interpret it differently.
That's right.
But what it all boils down to, and what the bottom line is this, is if you pass a res check,
Here we go.
an
That's right.
envelope calculation,
That's right.
okay, which includes
All the components, right, Earl?
all the components. Number one, the square footage of the heated or living conditioned area. Okay, the conditioned area, the square footage, living space, the insulation that you're going to put in, that you're proposing to put in, the windows nowadays. Okay, what windows you're using, and they have an Energy Star rating. They have an energy rating on the windows nowadays. So if you're using a good quality window with double pane, low E gas inside them, okay, a high efficiency window, and you're putting inside the basement a 92% efficient furnace, whether it's gas or oil.
Scotchy.
Yes, like we talked about last show. Then you take all this information, and your friendly neighborhood architect or engineer will have this software in their computer where they put all these calculations into the computer. They hit calculate, and it'll tell you whether
If
you
you pass or
fail and meet the standards
I
of
love
the New York
those
State.
tests.
Right?
Why go
So-
for an A, B, C, or D when it's either just pass or fail? So you could be getting a D and you're passing, or you can be getting an A and you're passing, and those are the different degrees of insulation you can use by percentage.
That's correct.
So, and it's a composite. They call that a composite. And yeah, the Res Check is actually available online to everybody if they want to try and do it themselves and plug in information. But the Res Check allows you to maybe put 40 inches of insulation up in your ceiling and 19 or 11 in your walls. And based on a component calculation, it meets the standard requirement for air infiltration. So you're losing more through your walls per se if you had an R19 or an R22, but the R11, but you're capturing a lot more at the ceiling level. So that trade-off is allowed And also, if you put in the E-glass or the high-efficiency glass, you can use less in your cavities. But why would anyone do that? The question is, why would anyone do that?
It's too inexpensive.
Sometimes there's a retrofit, Mike. You're working on 4-inch frame walls on a building. You're doing a retrofit, just gutting it, and you just want to bring it up. You're not going to fur out all the walls. Some people do, but most people don't. They prefer to put the 11-inch.
Don't they have the flat insulation to compensate, or the blowing in type
well,
of insulation?
sometimes, well, you can only blow so much in a 4-inch cavity to get an R value. So sometimes you have that, and you also find that some of these older houses have clapboard and so forth. The people don't want to put the foam on the outside and side it with the vinyl. They would rather restore the hardboards. So you have to work with that 4-inch or 3.5-inch cavity. And
the industry hasn't come up with anything at that point to compensate.
Well, they do. They have a high density
Yeah.
again, but it doesn't get up to the R22, and it's still an R12. I think they make now.
Right, the highest right now for the 4-inch cavity, the 2x4 exterior walls, and in these older houses that we're talking about, it's actually a true 2x4.
Right, those
You've
are the
got
real
4
ones.
inches to
Those
work
are-
with.
that's right.
And we could fit an R15 high density material, and it's expensive per square foot.
Right,
But
it's a lot.
that's what we can do now. We can bring up these exterior walls because there probably was an R9, an R11 in there.
Exactly.
If anything, when we opened it up,
Right. Or
But now-
leaves, and those older ones are crumpled newspapers.
We've opened up
So-
exterior walls and have found newspapers.
Teddy
was the
Roosevelt,
insulation.
and
We've
crazy.
opened up 2x4 exterior walls and found foil, like Reynolds wrap,
foil.
stapled to the.
One time we found a mannequin inside one of those walls too. There was a lot of things. When you open up walls, you'd be surprised what people use for insulation.
Anything is
anything.
available.
Sears catalogs were jammed in there from
Yes.
1954. Anything. These kit-built houses in the old days came together in pieces, and they didn't have the money for the insulation, so they used leaves, or they used newspaper or cardboard, or any sort of something that would create airspace and slow down the transmission of the heat in between the cavity. So that's how they did it in the old days, Mike. What do you think? What are you saying?
I found a lot of newspapers mostly. That was the most thing I ever found.
It makes for good reading.
Otherwise,
Good
you
reading.
find mail. You find anything paperish. That's what they used to put away.
Right. And the problem is with that, that's a fire hazard. But
Yeah,
you know,
is
they
combustible material
Sure.
in there.
Sure.
So one time I found a snake in the wall, Mike. Remember that one? That was a good one. Somebody's boa constrictor was
You
stuck in
find
the,
mice in the wall. You
stuck
find
in
everything
there.
in the wall usually.
That was Sid. Sid's snake was stuck in the wall.
Problem with the paper though, it actually falls apart, doesn't last. So anyone who does
and
have
the
that,
leaves, everything compacts.
it just compacts exactly. So you really need insulation at that level completely.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to get across to people today is take a good look at your home. See if all we need to do is come out and put an extra blanket on your home
Blanket on.
because with these rising oil prices,
What an investment.
and what's going on in
Oh.
this world now is just a nightmare.
It is.
Scotchy
One of the
again.
ways, Scotchy.
And Scotchy, he was talking about fighting it last week.
He's out there fighting it today, man.
Sure he is.
He's out
He's
there. We're
putting
gonna have
in-
Scott back. He wants to come back.
He's
again.
putting in a high efficiency, smart burning, radiant heat floor system that is going to
Somewhere.
save the people money on heating their homes. Now, let's put some more insulation in that home. Let's beef up the insulation
To
if it's new
maintain it.
construction or a new addition. And if it's an old home, let's go in there and retrofit. Let's go blow
Excellent.
6, 9,
Excellent.
12 inches in. Let's concentrate on keeping as much of that heat
down in the building.
inside
All
our
right.
envelope.
I got to see the return of money coming back very quick on these type of investments.
Earl gives a
Sure, and there's all kinds of, it's impossible for me to sit here and say, you spend $2,000 putting 12 inches in your attic
Right,
this
yeah.
year. You're going to recoup that in 12 months.
All right, listen.
I can't say
let's
that.
let's go out on a break, and we'll recap the show here when we come back. Give us a call. Your last chance for the phone here, the AT&T PCS. Give us a call, 651-1110. Hey, welcome back, folks. Here, short end of the show here, 5 minutes left. We have a question of the day. Laborio Durario, your friendly neighborhood architect out here with Earl Slick and Mike Ash. For the phone, Earl, what's the question again?
We're trying to establish what does R value, what does the R and the term R value mean? What is when
There we go, folks. You got 4 minutes and counting.
Come
Rich
on,
has the lines of smoking. We got 2 calls. We got 2 minutes. Oh, 2 minutes. You got
All right.
2 minutes. He's cutting us short here.
Put down your feather dusters.
That's it. So, and we got a call. Look at that. All right. Go ahead, caller. You're in.
Yes. Why is it? And you're talking about energy efficiency and great ways to make houses easier on the gas bill and whatnot. But why is it so difficult to get contractors to follow lead requirements or to build green?
Green building. That's another whole show which we can do. But yeah,
and we are going to do that.
And we are
show.
going to do that show. We at American Design and Build are green builders, and we do our best to keep the energy efficiency, the entire process down, as well as the waste on the job site.
Let me ask you, what kind of a project were you thinking of doing currently?
Did we lose him?
We lost him. Okay, we lost him.
Well, to answer, let's continue with that. Green building is also expensive.
That's
It's
right.
more expensive than your conventional
And
home.
some homeowners don't want to pay the freight on that, and the builders don't want to carry the cost if the homeowner is not going to work with them. So there
It's
are
a special type of
We're
work.
going to do the next show. We might actually, you know what, that caller, we lost that caller. Get an opportunity to call back next week. Maybe next week we'll come in and we'll do a show on some green building. But we did actually start off at the beginning talking about some green building and what that means. And for you folks who don't know, tune in next week because we're down to 45 seconds here. We're on our way out. Nobody won the AT&T Digital PCS phone here, so we'll bring it back next week. We'll have a new question about green building. We'll see if we can bring a consultant in, maybe Tom Vanderbeek, who was
He'd be perfect
here.
for that,
He
too.
might come in. He's interested in the green building. So, Laborio Durario here signing off. Mike, you want to sign off?
This
Earl?
is Mike Ash for your kitchen cabinet needs. And Earl,
Earl,
we want to thank you for coming back
Yeah,
today,
Earl, maybe, if we get a few more emails and that van doesn't show up to move you out to California, you might be back for the green show next week.
you never know.
You never know. We like to keep the folks out there and keep the emails coming. Let Earl know you care, okay? WTBQ.com. Email the station. Let us know you want Earl back for another show.
Otherwise, I'll email him for sure.
Keep Earl in orange.
All right. Take it easy, folks.
Tune in
Thanks
next
again.
week to the ABCs of Home Improvement.